So a lot of you have been messaging me to cover the backlash to the Obi-Wan Kenobi show on Disney+. Now, I've just been really busy this week, so this isn't like the most, I guess, timely video because this all happened about 2 days ago, I think. But I feel like as someone who has covered a lot of like Phantom Menace, Anti-SJW, Star Wars, drama, that I can still make a good video about this, which ties it back to stuff that's been happening over the last couple years, because backlash against non-white women who work in the Star Wars, I guess, community online. I'm not just even talking about the shows, as people who've hosted like YouTube shows who've also got this backlash, is primarily led by a bunch of people on YouTube and a bunch of people online who believe that diversity, even in something like Star Wars, which is about like this galaxy far, far away, which has so many different species of aliens, and you'd guess the color of a human skin probably doesn't matter in this context. They believe this is all part of some like leftist plot, this SJW plot, often led by Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, and anyone who plays a character in Star Wars who isn't a white man, essentially, is probably a diversity hire. And we're going to get into all of this today. I'm also going to talk about some of the more influential creators, mainly talking about like Geeks and Gamers. I think it's like Drunk 3PO and also Star Wars Theory. Now, these people aren't all the same. Star Wars Theory is not like the reactionaries, but I think there is a hesitancy within the Star Wars YouTube community to call each other out. And Star Wars Theory made like a decent enough video talking about this, saying like how it's bad. But then Geeks and Gamers and the reactionary side saying that Disney are just trying to silence criticism of the film by exaggerating racist abuse directed against one of the stars of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So all of that coming up for you today. But before we go any further, for every 5k we get a new chocolate orange. Again, I have forgotten. I will rectify that for next week's video. But help me keep growing this pyramid. Help me get to 80k in the near future, and we'll make this pyramid so much nicer. Also, if you want to support my work continuing, please consider becoming a patron. I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and the benefits of that are getting my Nintendo Switch friend code and access to the private patrons Discord server. Also, please like the video. And for today's comment, who do you think the worst, I guess, anti-SJW YouTuber who covers Star Wars is? Like, who has the worst takes, or who pushes the most toxic politics? Now, I would probably say Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers is the worst, because he's essentially now just an anti-fan. Like, he just hates all Star Wars, and he makes videos just hating on Star Wars all the time. I barely ever see anything on his channel talking positively about any of this stuff. The same with a lot of other ones. But also the problem with him is he actually has said he won't watch it anymore as well. So not only does he not watch it, he still makes videos hating on it. But there is a lot of anti-SJW channels that are really, really bad. I guess because Jeremy is such a mask-off, Trump supporting person who seems to weave that into all of his content, like massive simp for Ron DeSantis, doesn't even really care about staying like non-political now on his channel. But let me know down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle, Twitter, Instagram, and check out my subreddit down in the description. So I was wondering how to organize this video, but I guess we will just start with the recent backlash before we get into anything else about like the history of his stuff or the Phantom Menace online. So just to report before the show came out, Lucasfilm has already warned Obi-Wan star Moses Ingram about the likely racist reaction from the worst corner of the Star Wars fandom, and she said, "Obi-Wan is going to bring the most diversity I think we've ever seen in a galaxy before," she told The Independent. "To me, it's long overdue. If you got talking droids and aliens but no people of colour, it doesn't make any sense. It's 2022, you know." Unfortunately, as previous franchise stars John Boyega and Kellie Marie Tran can attest, the Star Wars fandom has a racist problem tucked into its ugliest corners. I wouldn't say it's in the corner anymore. However, Ingram says that this time around, Lucasfilm and Obi-Wan director Deborah Chow went into a casting with eyes wide open, and they prepared for the worst. It was something that Lucasfilm actually got in front of and said that this is a thing that unfortunately likely will happen, but we are here to help you. You can let us know when it happens. The actor credits director Deborah Chow as well as others throughout Lucasfilm for putting the proper systems in place so I feel safe while we work. Now, a lot of people were mad about that statement because Star Wars has had a lot of diversity in its cast before, so a lot of people were saying that, she doesn't really understand the universe. And look, I'm probably not going to agree with her that Star Wars hasn't had diverse casting before, but I will also acknowledge there is a hesitancy to make, I guess, non-white actors the face of the franchise. And wasn't there recently a report about Jedi Fallen Order, they wanted it to star an Asian woman, but they went with Cal Kestis, who is a white man. So basically, she did get the backlash after the show debuted, and she posted a video, but she showed some messages. So your days are numbered. She gets some one comment. You suck, loser. You're a diversity hire, and you won't be loved or remembered for this acting role. There's plenty more things like that, more overtly racist stuff. But I'm just going to play her video that she posted on the story about the comments she's been receiving.
Long story short, there are hundreds of those. Hundreds. And I also see those of you out there who put on a cape for me, and that really does mean the world to me, because, you know, there's nothing anybody can do about this. There's nothing anybody can do to stop this hate. And so I question what my purpose is, and even being here in front of you saying that this is happening, I don't really know. I don't really know. But I think the thing that bothers me is that, like, sort of this feeling that I've had inside of myself, which no one has told me, but this feeling of like, I just gotta shut up and take it. You know, I just kind of gotta grin and bear it. And I'm not built like that. So I really just wanted to come on, I think, and say thank you to the people who show up for me in the comments and the places that I'm not gonna put myself. And to the rest of y'all weird.
So as you guys know, these nerds absolutely hate it when you call them out for doing stuff like this. And we're going to get into reaction a bit later, but Ewan McGregor has also come out and talked about how any people sending her messages like this aren't real Star Wars fans.
This weekend, Star Wars fans made Obi-Wan Kenobi the most watched Disney Plus original series premiere of all time. And for that, I would say a big thank you. And it just goes to show what this family can do when we all pull together. However, it seems that some of the fan base from this influential fan base have decided to attack Moses Ingram online and send her the most horrendous racist DMs. And I heard some of them this morning and it just broke my heart. Moses is a brilliant actor. She's a brilliant woman. And she's absolutely amazing in this series. She brings so much to the series. She brings so much to the franchise. And it just sickened me to my stomach to hear that this had been happening. I just want to say, as the leading actor in the series, as the executive producer on the series, that we stand with Moses. We love Moses. And if you're sending her bullying messages, you're no Star Wars fan in my mind. There's no place for racism in this world. And I totally stand with Moses.
So the Star Wars Twitter also spoke about this, saying, "We are proud to welcome Moses Ingram to the Star Wars family and excited for Reva's story to unfold. If anyone intends to make her feel in any way unwelcome, we have only one thing to say: we resist. There are more than 20 million sentient species in the Star Wars galaxy. Don't choose to be racist." So, like, totally fair enough. Her employer has backed her against these racist attacks. But because these guys have called out the fans, a lot of fans have become outraged that they think everyone at Disney is calling all fans critical of this character racist. Now, if you actually feel that way, if you feel like any of the things I've just showed you are calling you out specifically, then maybe you do have a problem with racism. But, you know, as someone myself who absolutely, like, hates the sequel trilogy, and I think episode 9 is absolutely garbage, if someone was calling out people for directing hate against Daisy Ridley because she's a woman, I would have no problem with that. Like, why would I care? Because my criticism of this stuff isn't based on the colour of someone's skin. My criticism is on the film as this product and if it's bad or not. But these guys, because their criticism is often about someone's race, because it's often about someone's gender, they feel like they're being attacked. Like, you're trying to shut down the fans. You're trying to make us all seem like we're racist for having criticism. Honestly, in my opinion, you have to have inherent bigotry to feel called out by Ewan McGregor and Disney and Moses if you feel like she's attacking you for criticising her character. Because if you know you haven't said anything racist or sent her messages, or your criticism isn't based in the colour of her skin, then you know there's nothing to worry about. You know they're not calling you out. You know you can have your own opinion unless you have a really, really fragile ego. And also, a lot of people were saying in the comments, like, you know, you have minimized John Boyega in the poster for Force Awakens for China, and that's a fair enough comment. Disney is a corporation that exists to make money, and of course it's going to pander to certain regions. You see this a lot with loads of companies when they work in like places like Saudi Arabia or China, or audiences that do not tolerate these things as much. I'm not defending Disney. I don't like multi-billion corporations that are slowly taking over all our entertainment media. But I guess for like the Western branch and people standing up for Moses and saying they have her back in America, I really have no problem with that. Like, yes, Disney are hypocrites, but what, do you want them to say nothing? So now I want to go into the anti-SJW reaction and like elements of the Phantom Menace. I'm going to be talking about Ryan Kinnell and Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. Now, basically their takes are a tiny bit different, but very similar. Basically, they feel like Disney are trying to use woke politics and racism to shut down any criticism of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and essentially gaslight the whole audience into saying that if you criticize the show, you're racist. Again, this is just so stupid. But I think these two are more like true believer Republicans. So I actually kind of feel like this is legit for once and them not just, you know, riffing off this issue. But here's Ryan Kinnell first.
Now, this post by the official Star Wars Twitter is an attempt to gaslight everyone into thinking, well, if there's people out there that are criticizing Moses Ingram for how bad her character is in Kenobi, it must just be the racists out there. They're trying to set up this false dichotomy. And in a big way, they succeeded. Because a lot of these drones are out there repeating exactly the same thing. You certainly didn't do it for Gina Carano, but in this case, when people are not liking a product and not liking a character, you stand behind this wall of diversity and try to say, if anyone criticizes this, it must just be because you're racist. That's why it happened this way. It is played out exactly the way that Star Wars wanted. They want us to stop talking about it. They want you to stop criticizing it. Well, unfortunately for them, there's going to be people that see right through it. I'm one of those people. I will not stop talking about this, and I will not stop criticizing them.
Like I said, if you're going to start ranting about Disney hiding behind diversity and thinking they're calling all the fans racist, I think that says way more about you. It's perfectly fine to not like a character or a TV show or anything like that, regardless of who is acting and what character. But it's just clear that part of your problem is because of her being a black woman, and that's why you're taking specific offense at Disney, in your opinion, calling out the fans. Well, what fans are they calling out? What fans are they calling out? They calling out normal fans who have a diverse array of opinions on the different movies and shows? Or are they calling out the fans who incite this hate and partake in this hate? And these guys are guilty of leading these hate mobs before. And I'm going to get on to Christina Ariel, which you guys might remember, who just hosted the High Republic show. And these guys drummed up loads of hate against her, saying she was an anti-white racist. So just going to play you a quick clip of Jeremy's video as well.
But generally speaking, I got a lot of problems with it, but my biggest problem with it is Reva, and it's not because she's black, and it's not because she's a woman, it's because she's a terribly written character, and the actress is doing a really bad job in their performance. That's it. Now, Lucasfilm will paint that as racist and sexist, because why? Because they only hired this actress as a virtue signaling opportunity to begin with. And that's why so many people are tired of this, because we see it over and over and over and over again. And so they're going to continue to make this problem worse. And I would urge anybody out there, if you have valid criticisms of this actress or this show, don't let Lucasfilm try and weaponize anything against you.
Alright, so Jeremy's not a racist and he has no problem with the character being a black woman, but at the same time she was only hired for diversity and as a virtue signal. Like, how is she hired as a virtue signal if you have no problem with her being a black woman, right? Star Wars is a very, very diverse galaxy, so having one character played by a black woman is virtue signaling. Again, how? But you guys have to remember, these guys hate Star Wars now because of what they see as woke politics, not because of the politics of the actual show, not because of the politics of the movies. They barely ever comment on the actual political messaging of these properties. It's simply because there's more visible diversity in Star Wars itself. So here is a black woman talking about her experience of racism, and then their reaction is, you're calling us all racist. It's virtue signaling by Disney to even hire you in the first place. Oh, but we're not racist, we're not racist. So we're going to get into how these guys have historically incited this hatred against these people. And although they're smart enough on YouTube not to go like absolutely mask off racist, just dog whistling constantly, they do lead the worst elements of their fan base to go and do these things. So if you guys remember, I'm going to read you the story before showing you a bit of my coverage on it when I covered it, I say over a year ago now. So Star Wars supports High Republic host after racist abuse. The official Star Wars Twitter account has tweeted in support of Christina Ariel, the host of the upcoming Star Wars High Republic show, after she received online harassment. Tweets by Ariel surfaced of her speaking about the role white people play in upholding racism. She then started receiving racist abuse and accusations of being racist, but Star Wars tweeted in support of her, stating, "Our Star Wars community is one of hope and inclusivity. We do not stand for bullying or racism. We support Christina Ariel." She came under attack after social media posts resurfaced, mostly from last year when protests were taking place around the world for BLM. In some of her past tweets, she referred to white people while giving opinions on systemic racism. In one, she states, "Just a reminder that white women are just as complicit in upholding and enforcing white supremacy." So I made a video called "Anti-SJWs Help Lead Racist Harassment of New Star Wars YouTube Host," and I basically showed her tweets, and I'm going to show you them, and I'm going to play the old clip. You guys think, while I'm reading them out, as a white person, if you're a white person listening to this, does this offend you? Do you think she's an anti-white racist? If such a thing even exists. One of the big ones to them is Christina Ariel, who is this new host, saying, "White people, stop it. Your racism won't save you. Your ignorance is not an excuse." So that's the first one. Another one, "White conservatives, please stop invoking racism like you give a shit. You don't. You just want to be able to say what about when someone calls out 45 and is blatant racism. Got no problem with those two. Just a reminder that white women are just as complicit in the upholding and enforcing of white supremacy." Again, I don't see any lies with that tweet. Another one, "I don't have an ego. I'm also not a bully. I've said repeatedly I don't owe white people a conversation about racism. I've been living with it. They've been doling it out. I am not entering a conversation where people are intent on not understanding me." So another tweet, "Before one more person asks me why, it's because white people seem to think that black people exist as a monolith and only believe one way. They think that when one black person says something, we all feel that way. Basically, they're ignorant." So as a white person who considers himself an anti-racist, I see nothing wrong with what she said. Definitely don't see her as an anti-white racist. And again, with like what Disney was saying, if you feel these tweets call you out, there's something wrong with you. I got no problem with what she said. I agree with what she said. But again, if you even think anti-white racism is a thing, maybe this offends you. So here is Jeremy making multiple videos on this stuff, which led to a lot of the harassment. And listen to how he describes her tweets.
Today we are talking more about the High Republic because the High Republic continues to prove me right when I said it was SJW garbage. Almost every person attached to the High Republic seems to have a problem with white people. The official Star Wars account has now admitted to exactly what we've been accusing this company of for years, that they support racism as long as it's against white people. They have taken 40 years worth of fans and stories and transformed it into a social justice propaganda machine. So this is the person that was just announced right here. "Wow, I'm glad you're working on a Star Wars show so you can continue to tell us how terrible white people are. Continue to hire people that are blatant racists." That's okay in the social justice propaganda world. That's okay within the walls of Lucasfilm, because this is what Kathleen Kennedy wants. This is who she hires, and this is the message she wants to continue to push forward. And now they are admitting that they stand by racist comments made towards white people.
So can you see how content like this leads to harassment of people? And can you see how they focus on like black women specifically? Like a black woman tweeting about her experience of racism during the Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. Apparently that's anti-white racism, and you're inciting your audience essentially to harass this person because you're accusing them of something that is really, really gross. You're accusing this person of racism, but of course it comes from your far-right conservative beliefs about racism, where basically any real racism is minimized by you, but when it comes to anti-white racism, which means calling out white people's role in historic oppression of black people, then that is totally outrageous, and you have to target someone who's hosting a YouTube show. You've got to do that. You've got to do that. And then you talk about how Disney is okay with that. As a company, Disney is actually okay with anti-white racism. They hate white people. Imagine what kind of world you have to live in to think that Disney hates white people, or this corporation, even if it did hate white people, would ever let that be known. And just hiring this person who has pretty normal political beliefs, left political beliefs, as some sort of insane racist, in my opinion, just has led to her crazy harassment where she got the most like vile, racist messaging. It probably does not surprise you that this guy that I just played you some clips of, Jeremy, is also just like a mask-off Ron DeSantis supporter. Like, he loves what Ron DeSantis is doing, and he's trying to get his audience to get on side with Ron DeSantis because Ron DeSantis has gone to war against Disney. Now, he hasn't gone to war against Disney because it's a corporation that exploits Floridians. It's because they changed their stance on the Don't Say Gay bill, and they came out in opposition to it. So Ron DeSantis has basically started a war with them. So let's look at how Jeremy is covering this. Look at this. Ron DeSantis nukes Disney's special government privileges. Ron DeSantis strips Disney's self-government privileges. Disney disaster, DeSantis keeps winning. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaks on Disney special privilege. Disney boycott gets even worse with insane new backlash. Disney facing worse problems and DeSantis puts the hammer down. Ryan Kinnell also posting stuff about DeSantis. Disney gets major backlash. Florida passes bill that changes everything. So I'm coming from the UK, which has, I guess, a fairly standard like Overton window compared to the US, where like the Tories are like hard right at the moment. There are like some centre right Tories. The Labour Party at the moment is like centrist, centre left. And people like Jeremy Corbyn are like actual leftists, for example, right? The Republican Party in the US reminds me of the DUP in Northern Ireland. Like, it's this far right Christian conservative party, and in the US specifically, it's bordering on fash, especially embodied by people like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump. This guy, who's like a big figure in the Star Wars community, self-described Phantom Menace as well, he's pushing Ron DeSantis onto his thousands of followers. Again, a major person in the online Star Wars YouTube community, and he is not an outlier. Most people who cover nerd media in terms of Star Wars have very similar politics to him. But he is not one of the biggest Star Wars YouTubers. The biggest Star Wars YouTuber, in my opinion, is Star Wars Theory. Now, Star Wars Theory came out and he condemned the abuse Moses Ingram was getting, saying it was wrong, although I don't really believe his video was that good. It was basically focusing on like the bullying part, not so much that this whole community has a massive problem with racism. But my even bigger problem is that Star Wars Theory, who has talked about, I guess, more progressive things, kind of, and he isn't like a reactionary, he's not pushing Ron DeSantis on his channel, he's not pushing Republican politics, he has collabed with Jeremy several times in that they focused on shows together. Now, I have a little clip I recorded from like a 2-hour live stream, but there are a couple of these. Now, I will say, I'm not going to try and distort this, he hasn't been on one of these for a while, I think about a year. But he also, in my opinion, as someone who's, you know, people see as like one of the leaders of the Star Wars YouTube community, he has not done anything really to call these people out or really deter people from viewing these as legit content creators to go and watch. And essentially, if they're young and naive, probably be indoctrinated in their politics. So let's have a look at the clip quick.
Theory has worked so hard to have this respectable channel. He's like viewed like as like the Superman of Star Wars, or like, and now he comes on here and he's losing all of it. It's all out.
No, I'm just gaining more power. My 3 favorite content creators wish Jeremy would do COD with y'all more often.
It's called COD.
I'm not very good at the game, so
you're pretty good, man, right? It's not like I blame Theory for making me obsessed with Warzone. That's pretty much all I do now. I don't make videos anymore. I just play Warzone. That's all I do. But we are playing Warzone tonight on Twitch, and I might hop on with them if they're gonna play later. But like right now, I've got this stream. Then we're playing Warzone on Twitch. And then I've got to work in some time to actually do some work because we have a lot going on at Geeks Gamers. But I want to jump on with him because I can't stop playing Warzone. I can't stop. I hope he never does. But I do thank him for giving me the opportunity to build my channel off of how bad his movie was. I will never forget that, Ryan. I appreciate you being so bad at what you do and allowing me to gain follow. Yeah. But yeah, I don't see it happening. I think he's just trolling just because it's just what he does. It's his way of staying relevant.
So I left Star Wars Theory a YouTube comment, has like no interaction on his video calling out the backlash against Moses. And I say, well, I respect you for saying this and being one of the few Star Wars YouTubers to take her side. Let's be honest, the Star Wars YouTube community as a whole has a huge racism problem, and you personally have collabed with some of the worst enablers of this, and to my knowledge haven't called out their videos, which cultivate an audience who will resort to bigoted attacks against the cast, or in the past, other actors or hosts of Star Wars media. I also think you know who I'm talking about, and maybe you don't want to call them out because your audience also watch their stuff, but if a significant audience of Star Wars media on YouTube are having videos brought to them by people simping for Ron DeSantis, I feel it's something you could call out. I don't think it's drama at this point. Look at how they're covering the issues compared to you. I've spoke to other Star Wars YouTubers who are afraid to call these people out, despite hating them because they're worried about the dog pile. Something to think about. So yeah, in my opinion, if you're going to take the time to make a video talking about how ridiculous it is people have been racist to Moses, you know for a fact that there are other YouTubers you have collabed with who will be covering this in a totally different way to minimize the backlash and essentially say Disney are just using this to shut down criticism of the show, which is completely ridiculous. And as someone with a massive platform, he could have an influence to tell people stop watching their channel, or even just call out the creators themselves like, you know, this is not cool. Stop capitalizing on this. Stop making the problem worse by targeting these people with these accusations, for example, with Christina Ariel, that they are anti-white racists and they deserve essentially the hate they're getting and the backlash they're getting because they've said stuff about white people before. Again, this is the person he is collabing with, and there are so many of these people, leading to my mind that he just does not want to annoy people. He doesn't want to call them out because he knows a lot of his audience watch them, and then he has to start a drama because there's more of them than there are progressive Star Wars YouTubers. And I have spoke to some progressive Star Wars YouTubers who have said that they won't call these people out because they are afraid of the dog pile, because they're in such a minority of being Star Wars content creators who have left-wing politics, which is quite bizarre to me considering Star Wars historically was inspired by a communist revolution against the Americans and the South Vietnamese government. So this isn't like a call out of Star Wars theory, but in my opinion, he has weaponized this toxic community himself when he got in a fight with Pablo Hidalgo, when he thought Pablo was mocking him, and it was pretty obvious, even before Pablo clarified his tweets, that he wasn't mocking him. But then he just whipped up this hysteria, which Geeks and Gamers and others capitalized on to lead harassment against Pablo as well. So I don't have much hope this guy is going to turn around and start talking about how toxic these people make the community. Because if every Star Wars YouTuber was like Star Wars Theory, I don't really think we'd have this problem. Because most of them are like Jeremy and Ryan Kinnell from Geeks and Gamers, we have this problem where they are in the majority, and anti-SJW content, some people say there's a wave coming. It's never gone away. It's been here since 2016. It's only gotten worse and worse over time. And it kind of started with The Last Jedi, which Jeremy himself massively capitalized on, and how the whole right-wing Star Wars grifting ecosystem was born. You guys would have heard it before. Kathleen Kennedy has made these films bad and woke, and the films are essentially made at her direction despite her not being a director. She inserts minorities for, you know, virtue signaling, as people like Jeremy say, and it's just totally ridiculous. And to give you an insight into how this kind of started, this whole like massive right-wing resurgence with Star Wars fans, take a look at this old school video from a guy called No BS, who was like this, you know, Anti-SJW YouTube channel back in the day. Channel is dead now. But listen to how he describes the different characters in The Last Jedi.
He's shown as this old coot in this movie, which is fine, but I'm starting to think he's a bit of a scapegoat here. He represents what's left of good white males in the franchise, certainly. A demographic that in the real world has constantly been outcasted and shunned from our society, especially lately. Luke is a figure from the older generation, a generation that's slowly dying out and being taken over by over-diversity, PC culture, and SJW. Next is Finn, the token black guy. Not much else to say about him but that, because he really doesn't bring much to the table in this movie, besides his boring and pointless casino subplot. Oh, he almost sacrifices himself in the end, though, to save the resistance, but before he gets a chance to do anything significant, he's pushed out of the way and effectively cucked by his new girlfriend Rose, the token Asian in this movie, and probably its worst part. Rounding out the main cast, we got the token Latin man, pejoratively called Flyboy in this film. While Poe has more of a role in the actual main plot, him leading the resistance in the air with their space battles. Despite having a bigger role, though, Poe is also ultimately cucked too, when he's not only constantly chastised for being brave and making bold moves on the battlefield, he's also kept out of the loop of the Resistance main battle plan by none other than Holdo, the literal pink-haired lesbian feminist in the movie. Again, not kidding. Played by Laura Dern, Admiral Holdo not only is another female in charge for the good guys, like General Leia, she's also pink-haired and hinted to have a romantic lesbian relationship with Leia, the other female that's leading the Resistance. Are you beginning to see the pattern here? White women lead the good guys, while emasculating their male cohorts. Couple that with Holdo's pink hair and lesbian background and her elitist attitude towards men, and, well, it looks like Star Wars is becoming the social justice wars.
I can't even imagine viewing movies like this. It must just get so tiring. Like, do you remember the backlash against the Batman for being supposedly anti-white as well? Like, it's just so bizarre to me that you can watch a film like Star Wars, like I've been saying, in a galaxy that's very diverse and think, yeah, token Asian woman, token black guy, token Latin man, token pink-haired feminist lesbian. Like, these are all token characters. Like, these people, very successful actors, Oscar Isaac and Laura Dern, John Boyega, up and coming, Kellie Marie Tran, like, very good actress as well. All of these people, clearly very talented. They're actually only cast because they needed an Asian person, a Latin person. Again, this just blows my mind. And they need a feminist person with Laura Dern, like really, really famous actress. And it just shows you how these people were able to kind of like infiltrate this fandom. So everyone thinks like this now. So if there is a visible black character, well, it's a token black character. In a world where humans are just one of like millions of species, here is your token black character. Not that probably in this world, humans probably don't even care about skin color. But basically, which I've described in previous videos, they use the backlash of The Last Jedi to basically steer a lot of Star Wars fans in this direction. Because you guys remember, The Last Jedi was very, very controversial for multiple reasons. I didn't particularly like this film. I think it's better than Episode 9, which is one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life, and I probably think it's a bit better than Episode 7. But it was controversial because it had stuff to do with like Leia, and obviously Luke died, and it championed like Rey a lot more as this like great fighter and learning to become a Jedi quite quickly. And these guys really hated this movie, right? And I don't like this movie either, but a lot of people, maybe who don't have like great critical thinking skills, for example, conservatives, probably couldn't realize why they didn't like this film. Why was this film bad? Or why didn't this film live up to my expectations? And these people say, well, we'll tell you why. They didn't really care about the story. It was all about forced diversity. It was all about making strong female characters at the expense of the men. And mostly the baddies were white men and the resistance were diverse. So they're trying to put in this agenda about white people being bad, and Disney actually love anti-white racism. So then a lot of people thinking, yeah, it's actually diversity which were in Star Wars. It wasn't bad direction. It wasn't mismanagement from J.J. Abrams with the 7th film and the 9th film, or bad direction from Rian Johnson. Really, it was all about Rian Johnson shoehorning in SJW politics, maybe at the behest of Kathleen Kennedy. And these guys all think that Disney is a left-wing corporation. They think the board of Disney are all like leftist communists, which is bizarre because I've always said, at best, their personal politics might be liberal. They're all capitalists, though. I don't like Disney. I don't like business people. I don't like capitalist CEOs of corporations or board members. It's extremely laughable to me that they think that this diverse casting is an extension of leftist politics, and also makes me laugh. They often ignore the outward, more left-leaning messages of George Lucas's work. And like I said, the rebels were inspired by the Viet Cong. Richard Nixon is the inspiration for Palpatine. The prequels are literally all about politics. What politics do you think George Lucas has? So when George Lucas is putting his own politics in the actual narrative, fine. Left-leaning, fine. I love George Lucas, save his anti-SJW fans. When the way more centrist sequel films come out, apparently they're crazy communists because Rey is the main character and we have token black people and token Latin people. But you can see how they often take this and try and radicalize people in more conservative politics, because why is a nerd channel really pushing Ron DeSantis? And they actually had a live stream where they talked about like how great Ron DeSantis was. So they're shoving politics down your throat while complaining about having politics shoved down their throat in the form of diverse casting. These guys are obviously massive hypocrites, and they're obviously like butthurt conservatives who just feel like everything is part of the culture war. And they may have used to be fans of this stuff, but now they're anti-fans. They can't enjoy anything because they're just viewing it through this crazy political lens where they think any diversity in casting is inherently extremely political. And yes, if your reaction to someone receiving abuse online is to get defensive or downplay it or feel like you're being called out, maybe reflect on your own personal politics and your own personal beliefs and ask yourself, why do you feel like you are personally being called out by Disney making a statement against racism? So anyway, that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Follow me on social media at the Kavernacle, on Twitter, on Instagram, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.